That's actually why people get married, just so you know.
Hi everyone, this is MGTOW Poland here, and this is Jordan Peterson, the foremost thinker, philosopher, and psychotherapist of modern times. In this clip, he argues for marriage and against divorce. And being a MGTOW myself, I'm always curious about how smart people argue for marriage and what are their points. I guess I'm still trying to convince myself otherwise. I found myself disagreeing with Peterson on several points, but this is in no way an attempt to raise myself to his level. It's obvious that the guy is at least 10 times as smart as I am. But here are my comments to his arguments.
That's actually why people get married, just so you know. Because this is built into marital vows. I'm not leaving. Ever, no matter what.
Actually, I have never heard such an argument for marriage. In my experience, people get married for a wide variety of reasons, most of them wrong. I mean, they have oftentimes just great sex. Or they are passionately in love with one another and think it will last forever. Or they have a skewed view of reality and believe in the happily ever after. Or they feel the pressure from their family or the society. Or they want to just take the next step. Whatever the reasons are, I have never heard of this one. And I think what Peterson is trying to say here is, you are not leaving ever again, because I will own you. And the other person saying in reply, well, that's just great, because I will own you too. But this ownership mentality of marriage, and I definitely can understand that, but I don't think it makes for a good reason and a sound foundation of marriage.
It's like, okay, well, that definitely puts a boundary around our arguments, right? Because I can't say every time you manifest one of your flaws, which you're likely to do just as often as me, well, enough of this. It's like, that's horrible, man. If your whole life is, well, every time you get out of line, I'm out of here. It's like, how the hell are you? First of all, you're not going to admit to ever doing anything wrong. Second, you're going to be on your... You're like a scared cat the entire relationship because, well, who knows, it could just come to an end at any moment.
Well, if you are with a person that just walks away every time you get out of line or vice versa, then that person or yourself might be just too touchy, too emotionally not stable, or simply does not value their relationship enough to try to stay and solve the problem. But I found myself liberated by the idea of just walking away. People oftentimes, they cannot walk away from anything in their lives. The list is long. They cannot walk away from their jobs because they need to pay bills. They cannot walk from their banks because they have mortgages. And frankly, I think that it makes people lazy if they cannot walk away. Oftentimes, when you can walk away, but you care for the other person, you try to solve the problem and you try to keep the person interested in you. My friend says that to stay together, you always need to find new reasons. I mean, when one reason ends, you need to find a bigger reason and a new one. And when that ends, you find another reason. You are not lazy.
It's like, people say, well, if the possibility of divorce is open, it makes you free. It's like, yeah, that's what you want. You want to be free, eh? Really? Really?
I have never heard this argument made. It is like saying that the possibility of breaking out of prison really makes you free, so it is okay to go to prison. But to answer Peterson's question, yes, I want to be free. Yes, really? Yes, really. I find the concept of freedom and the gift of freedom the most precious thing that you have. I oftentimes see people give it away without a second thought. I think it is the most precious gift you can give anyone. But I guess if you do not find anyone worthy of it, the best choice is to just keep it for yourself.
So you can't predict anything. That's what you're after.
I think equating marriage to the possibility of predicting future is really far-fetched. I mean, just ask the 50% that get divorced if they planned for it. Things change all the time, and all the time people come back to their homes to find that the reality has changed.
It's a vow, and it says, look, I know that you're trouble. Me too. So we won't leave, no matter what happens.
I rarely see two wrongs make anything right. So if I am trouble and the other person is trouble, perhaps the best idea is to fix ourselves first. If I am trouble and you are trouble and we marry each other, most likely there will be trouble.
Well, that's a hell of a vow, but that's why it's a vow, right? That's why you take it in front of a bunch of people. That's why it's supposed to be a sacred act.
Okay, I understand where Peterson is coming from, but I cannot help but think that he is also coming from a different generation. There used to be a time where spoken word, a promise, a vow used to mean a lot. If you were caught in a lie, you lost your honor, and consequences were often serious. But these days, people lie all the time. I mean, I see politicians like Trump just lie left and right. I see corporations lie. I see marketing people lie. I see everybody lying without really a second thought. It's almost like a vow is meant to be broken these days. I understand that it shouldn't be this way, but nevertheless, it's really the sad reality we live in.
It's like, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Everything is mutable and changeable at any moment.
That's very right. Everything is mutable and changeable at any moment. This is not only the sign of modern times, but really only math stays the same. People change, circumstances change very rapidly these days.
Well, go ahead. You live your life like that and see what you're like when you're 50. Jesus, it's dismal.
I'm not 100% sure what the argument is here. I think Jordan Peterson argues for marriage, and the argument goes that you will be miserable without one. I often hear this argument being made by women. But I'm 40 at present, I was never married, and I cannot call myself miserable. I guess I need to wait another 10 years to make sure that this doesn't change. Staying single is far better than being in a bad marriage.
2 or 3 divorces, your family's fragmented, you've got no continuity of narrative. It's not good for the kids, not by any stretch of the imagination. And so it's a form of voluntary enslavement, I suppose.
I guess it is, but being a divorced man these days is also slavery. So either way, you could be slaving away in a marriage for a few years, and then you could be slaving away because you're a divorced man.
But it's also equivalent to the adoption of a responsibility. And
Peterson is big on responsibility, but with additional responsibilities, there must be adequate rewards for someone. I need to take on some responsibilities, but others I don't need to take on, if the rewards are not enough to justify them.
Smiley or Mr. Smiley's, that'll be $4.98, please. Would you like some Smiley sauce?
No. Actually, I'd like to fill out an application.
There's no jobs for manager, it's just for counter.
Good. I'm looking for the least possible amount of responsibility.
there's more to it than that. If you can't run away, then you can solve your problems. Because it might be, okay, well, I'm stuck with you. So how about we fix things? Because the alternative is we're going to be in a boxing match for the next 40 years. That's the alternative.
This sounds like a sound argument, but many people are just fine boxing. So the idea that, hey, we are stuck together, so let's fix the problem, is a very logical argument. But oftentimes the logic just goes out the window because you're dealing with a person that just wants to do harm, or just wants to be right all the time, or just wants to feel like a victim.
So, and you think you're going to fix problems without something like that hanging over your head? There isn't a chance. You'll just avoid them because that's what people do. It's really hard to solve problems, especially in a relationship.
Okay, I understand the logic here, but let's suppose we take it further and we shoot the people that divorce, okay? If they cannot solve their problems, we just shoot them. That will surely motivate them to solve their problems. I understand that. I'm just not too fond of this mechanism.
We're having a fight and I find out that it's, because you were abused by your uncle when you were 5 or some goddamn thing. It's like, it's very frequent that sort of thing happens. There's your partner is, manifesting some weird anomalous behavior. You just can't make heads or tails of it. It doesn't seem related to what you're doing at all. They don't want to talk about it. And so as soon as you bring it up, they get mad. And then you bring it up again, they even get madder and they tell you that you're not going to talk about that or they're going to leave. And so maybe you're really, really persistent because you're kind of a son of a bitch, and then they break down and cry, and then they have this horrible memory that comes flooding forward that's completely, you don't know what to do with it, and then you have to sort it out. It's like, you think you're going to do that unless there's a good reason?
Well, this sounds really great and all, but remember that Peterson is a psychotherapist. He can definitely do fix a problem like that, but the best circumstance would be just to drive someone to the psychologist or psychotherapist. But that's assuming that the other person would actually agree or want to fix themselves, which oftentimes is not the case.
You have to know, we better sort this out or we're going to be carrying it around for the next 40 years. That maybe is enough motivation so you'll actually try hard to solve a problem. It's a lot easier to say, well, sorry, we're not going there. But then, good, you'll have it every day, every goddamn day for the rest of your life.
Fixing problems is great for people who wish well to one another. Because the second that's gone, or if you marry a person that just doesn't have any goodwill towards you, you're in a totally different reality, and no amount of solving problems will fix it. I am all for solving a problem, but this only presupposes that the other person is just as keen on it. Sometimes you're just married to the wrong person who cannot stand the look of your face, and solving a problem will just make another one pop up.
See, there's some additional problems with divorce that people don't really grasp when they're young.
I couldn't agree more. I think people should take a test that tests their knowledge of divorce statistics, family law, alimony procedures, and so forth and so on. But people enter, unfortunately, into marriage oftentimes totally oblivious to these things. In any case, I find Peterson's playing with the wedding finger here very telling. I am not sure how subconscious this is or conscious, but it makes for a dubious gesture.
Like, the idea that you can be divorced once you have children, that's kind of a stupid idea, because you can't. And your market value has declined. Let's say you're the woman who takes the kids. Your market value has declined radically. You're going to be poorer. The man, he's just as screwed, because he is now an indentured servant, and there's no escape from it. So it's not so bad if you can negotiate a peaceful separation, and some people can, but lots of times if you have a terrible relationship, it's not like negotiating a peaceful separation is all that easy. But if you're at each other's throats, good luck to you. I think it's roughly equivalent to having non-fatal cancer.
Agreed, but so is staying in a bad marriage.
So, this makes sense.
Oh, Lester.
Honey, it's okay. I want you to be happy. Would you like smiley sauce with that?
Lester, just stop it!
No. You don't get to tell me what to do. Ever again.